Exposed, 5 spine-chilling and sinister true stories from Reddit that will haunt you forever. In Riverside, Ohio, where the streets gleamed with freshly mowed lawns and neighbors shared polite waves, Sarah had once felt at home in her pristine suburb. But recent events had cracked that picture-perfect illusion, leaving disturbing echoes in her once sweet sanctuary. Whispers slithered through the walls like a serpent, and shadows flickered just beyond her porch, a taunting reminder that serenity is often a facade. With her husband always working late, Sarah was left alone, besieged by a creeping dread that no amount of sunshine could chase away. She often stole glances at Mr. Thompson, her neighbor. Beneath his friendly smile lay an unsettling aura that prickled her skin. Frustrated and restless, one evening, she dove into the dark depths of Reddit, an innocent quest for understanding her uncanny neighbor. The results sent shivers racing down her spine. Stories of missing pets, unholy rituals under the moonlight, shadowy figures moving behind half-drawn curtains, twisting the existing fabric of her suburban bliss into a nightmare. Each tale dragged her down a chilling rabbit hole, with every line provoking a tightly coiled dread in her gut. Then it started small, almost trivial things. A flicker of movement caught out of the corner of her eye, a hushed breath against her ear that vanished before she could turn. But the moments escalated quickly, swallowing her whole like an inescapable darkness. Her once cheerful chats with neighbors transformed into whispered conversations laced with suspicion. When she reported her fears to the local authorities, the dismissive wave of their hands left her feeling invisible, her plight swallowed by the indifference of a sleepy town. Nothing happens in Riverside, they insisted, but something was terribly, horrifically wrong. The zenith of her turmoil struck during a routine game of hide-and-seek with her daughter, Lily. "Count to 10. Sarah called, heart pounding with excitement, but when the giggles stopped, an icy panic gripped her. The silence was deafening. Shadows loomed larger in her mind. Where had Lily gone? The once comforting familiarity of their backyard morphed into an unfathomable abyss where echoes of laughter turned into desperate cries. "Lily!" She screamed, her voice tearing through the silence, twisting into a plea. The pleasant safety of home shattered into a frantic chase, each moment expanding into an eternity of terror. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The walls that once felt solid now pulsated with threats. Sarah's heart raced as she considered that benign face of Mr. Thompson turning to something vile. The whispers she had dismissed as panic surged into the forefront, sickening blood in her veins. What if he was the monster hiding in the safety of her neighborhood? The air thickened around her as she stumbled past the porch to confront this horror. What lurked behind the smiles? Her gut twisted as dread coalesced into sharp realization. The neighbor was connected to the folklore she had inadvertently stumbled across, a tale dark enough to frighten even the bravest. How deep did the secrets of Riverside run? What sinister web was woven just behind closed doors? Despair clawed at her throat like a silent scream. She had to find Lily, but could she trust anyone, even herself, to unravel the truth? Sarah raced through the house, her mind a storm churning with panic. The backyard, now an alien landscape, stretched out before her. Each rustling leaf became sinister whispers, echoing her growing fear. "Lily!" She called again, her throat raw, but the only answer was the wind, mocking her desperation. As she darted to the edge of the yard, light flickered from the Thompsons' property next door. Mr. Thompson stood at his window, his frame silhouetted against the illuminated void. Was he watching her? The thought tightened her chest. An instinct deep within warned her that he was not an ally. She was spiraling into darkness alone, and he might be at its center. The world narrowed to her daughter's last known location, and she focused on finding Lily. A primal urge surged through her. She plunged into the thicket of tightly bound trees bordering their properties. Each snap of twigs beneath her frantic feet echoed her rising dread, pounding in her ears like a countdown. The shadows grabbed at her ankles, invisible hands eager to pull her down into their suffocating embrace. "Come on, Lily!" she yelled, the sound swallowed by the night. She stumbled past the last of the trees and into a clearing, a place where the moonlight spilled like cold water. Her heart sank. No sign of her daughter. Only silence, heavy and oppressive, wrapping around her like a shroud. Her fingers brushed against something, a soft, familiar feeling. She dropped to her knees, her breath hitching as she recognized Lily's favorite stuffed bunny, its blue fabric stained with damp earth. Cold dread pooled at the base of her spine. "No, no, no." The words escaped her lips in a shaky prayer. Her eyes darted around, desperation tightening its grip. Was it here that something had taken her child? Just then, a voice, soft and haunted, broke through the oppressive quiet. "Mommy?" It was Lily. Sarah swung around, her heart leaping, but the direction of the sound sent icy tendrils of concern slithering through her. "Where are you?" "Over here." It was so small, so pitiful. Lily's voice came from behind the old shed at the far end of the yard, a place Sarah would avoid even during daylight. The shed had grown rotten, its wood crumbling into decay, a whispered reminder of what it once was. Fear squeezed her, but she pushed it aside. Her child needed her. Creeping closer, the air grew heavier, thick with anticipation. She peeked around the corner and her breath froze in her throat. There was Lily, but she stood unnaturally still, eyes wide, staring into the shed. "Mommy! Help! Lily!" Sarah sprinted forward, dread pulling her every step. Just as she reached for her daughter, Lily turned sharply, her expression warped. "It wants me, Mommy," she said, voice eerily calm. "It showed me the neighbor." Suddenly, the door of the shed creaked open. A warped breeze slithered out, icy and suffocating. A figure wafted into the moonlight. It was Mr. Thompson, his smile too wide, his eyes dark voids as if he were more shadow than man. "Looking for something?" he crooned, tilting his head. Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her. What was he hiding? And what had he already taken? Her heart raced anew as the nightmare threatened to unfold. As the moon illuminated sinister truths, she realized she was caught in a web woven by unknown hands. But she wouldn't go down without a fight. "Run, Lily!" she screamed, desperation fueling her every word. But the sinister smile of Mr. Thompson grew wider as the darkness deepened around them. What power lay within the neighbor's grasp? Sarah's breath caught as a chilling realization dawned. This place, this suburb, was no longer just a home. It was a nightmare waiting to swallow them whole. With her heart in her throat, she braced for something she could never have anticipated. A reckoning loomed, but would it be salvation or damnation that awaited them? Sarah's heart thundered as she turned to Lily, but the little girl's face was white, a mask of terror that sent fresh waves of panic crashing over Sarah. Time slowed, the shadows thickened around them like a living thing. She could hear nothing but the pulse of her own fear beating in her ears. "Keep still!" Sarah shouted, stepping forward, a tremor of authority in her voice. But her daughter's eyes were fixed on Mr. Thompson, who glided closer, his movement fluid, as if he were more spectre than man. "No!" she cried, grabbing Lily's arm. "Not him, get back!" Mr. Thompson chuckled darkly, his smile stretching impossibly wide. "She is so precious, isn't she?" His voice dripped with malevolence. "A little star waiting to shine bright, for me." Bile rose in Sarah's throat. She had to protect Lily, but the man before her was a gatekeeper of unspeakable horrors. Just behind him, the shed loomed dilapidated and dark, the doorway an inviting void. What kind of grotesque secrets lingered there? The air grew colder, biting at her skin. "Mommy, please," Lily whimpered, trembling like a leaf in the wind. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah pulled her daughter close. "We have to go." She glanced around, searching for a way out, but the oppressive silence pressed down, wrapping them in an invisible hand. Mr. Thompson only watched, as if relishing their fear. "We're not going anywhere," he said softly, his tone shifting, dripping with threat. "You can't run from what's already chosen you." Sarah's legs shook, but something primal kicked in. "You don't have power over us," she declared, defiance rising. "We will not be your playthings." The words shot through the air like a gunshot, and for a split second, Mr. Thompson's smile faltered. Then, faster than she could process, his face twisted into rage. "You dare!" In that instant, something cold and clammy wrapped around Sarah's ankle, jerking her backward. She stumbled, horrified to see tendrils of darkness snaking from the shed, reaching out like cruel fingers of a nightmare made real. They clutched at her, pulling her closer to the threshold. "Lily!" she screamed, the terror in her voice sharp enough to slice through the silence. Yet, as if in a trance, Lily stood frozen, the light in her eyes dimming moment by moment. "Mommy," she whispered, her small voice trembling, "I don't want to be chosen. Fight it, baby." Sarah shouted, summoning every ounce of strength. She felt the icy grip of despair clutching at her heart, escalating with every passing second. Desperation surged through her. "Mommy!" Lily cried, tears streaking her face. It knows everything." Lily's voice echoed in the night, reverberating like a death knell. Mr. Thompson took another step forward, now a monstrous silhouette against the pale moonlight. "Chosen ones are special," he crooned, his voice now a twisted lullaby. "And she will become my masterpiece." A surge of instinct made Sarah lash out, kicking the tendril that held her tight. The darkness shrieked, a sound so high-pitched it pierced her ears. "Run, Lily! Now!" But as she struggled against the dark grasp, panic lodged itself in her throat. Just as she feared all would end, the shadows recoiled, hesitating at her fierce defiance. "Come to me, my darling," Mr. Thompson implored, his voice seductive and dark. The shadows pulsed, wrapping around Lily, whispering secrets meant to ensnare. "No!" Sarah howled, wrenching herself free. She lunged toward Lily, and as her fingers brushed her daughter's arm, she ignited a spark of light in the engulfing darkness. The force of their connection surged against Mr. Thompson, and for a moment, his visage cracked. "No!" he screamed, rage boiling over, the shadows retreating like mist before dawn. "Run!" Sarah cried again, urging Lily to move as adrenaline propelled her past the threshold. But as her daughter turned to flee, hesitation flickered in her eyes, a shadow of doubt creeping back. Would they escape? Would they break his hold? They raced toward the gate, but Sarah could feel the pull of the night growing stronger, a tempest of dread swirling around them. Each step became more of a fight, an endless battle against what lurked in the dark, and just when they thought they might escape, the ground trembled beneath them, as if the earth itself conspired with the shadows. What awaited them beyond the threshold of their yard? The looming dread crawled back into awareness as they raced forward, but the darkness whispered of a much deeper horror yet to come. Would they uncover the truth hidden in their own lives, or would they remain just another chapter in Mr. Thompson's twisted tale? As they barreled through the gate, the night air whipped around them, heavy with the scent of wet earth and something feral, something rotten. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps, her heart slamming against her ribs. She glanced back, desperate to see what was following them. Mr. Thompson's smile was a ghastly crescent in the dim light, shadows consuming him as he raised a hand with a graceful flourish. "Your light will dim, dear Sarah," he called, his voice echoing like a distorted record player, warped and sinister. "She's not running from me, she's running toward her destiny." "Mommy! I can't. It hurts," Lily cried, staggering beside her. Sarah gripped her daughter's hand tighter, the warmth of it a stark contrast to the cold tendrils of darkness that still lingered in the air. "Keep moving," Sarah shouted, urgency coursing through her veins. They dashed down the narrow street, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the fog rolling in, a thick blanket of dread. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, taunting, whispering desperately of unknown horrors. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily's voice trembled, and the soft whimper pulled at Sarah's heart. I know, but we have to find a safe place, sweetie." In the distance, the flickering lights of their neighborhood called to them, ghostly and warm. But a chilling howl echoed through the night, and Sarah froze at the sound. It came from the shadows behind them, fierce and hungry. "Faster!" Sarah urged, adrenaline cracking the barrier of her fear. They pushed on until they reached the edge of their backyard, where the towering trees loomed over them like ancient sentinels. The air felt loaded, charged with an unearthly energy. What had been their refuge now felt like a prison. "Where do we go?" Lily's voice was small, lost amid the encroaching darkness. "Inside," Sarah ordered, pushing through the door, urgency propelling her. They stumbled into the dim living room. The walls, normally comforting with the pastel colors of home, felt like a suffocating cocoon now painted with shadows. "Lock the door," Sarah hollered, propelling Lily to the latch. The girl scrambled, her tiny fingers shaking, fighting to turn the bolt. As soon as they were in, the outside seemed to explode with sound, the clash of metal and the laughter of something malicious creeping closer. "What do we do? What if he comes here?" Lily's voice quivered, her eyes wide and glistening with fear. Sarah felt the walls closing in, panic twisting her stomach into knots. "We hide. We can't let him know we're here," she breathed, her heart racing not just from fear but from a growing sense of urgency. "We'll be safe until morning." The thought was laughable, morning felt like a fantasy that hung just out of reach. They crept through the darkened hallway, the silence a weight on their shoulders. Each creaking floorboard beneath their feet threatened to give them away. They found refuge in the laundry closet, huddled together, hearts racing against the universe that seemed to conspire against them. Outside, the night deepened, shadows pooling under the beams of flickering light. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her little body shuddering. "What's wrong with him?" Sarah couldn't answer. The weight of dread pressed down on her, choking out words. How could she explain that Mr. Thompson wasn't a man, but something far worse, a predator clothed in a human facade? The darkness outside felt alive, clawing at the edges of their reality. Then came a sound soft and deliberate, like a predator testing its prey. It slithered from the shadows, wrapping its sinister whisper around the house, searching. "What do we do?" Lily trembled beside her, panic flaring in her wide eyes. "We wait. Just don't make a sound," Sarah murmured, as Mr. Thompson's shadow loomed closer, each movement imbued with malice, but the door creaked. The sound tore through the silence, sharp and deafening, as the doorknob rattled. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Stay quiet," she hissed, pulling Lily closer against her, praying they'd remain unseen. In that dark, suffocating moment, Sarah realized Mr. Thompson wouldn't stop until he had what he wanted. And in the shadows, he grinned. Would they make it through the night? Or had they entered a different kind of game, one where survival was only a fleeting illusion? The door rattled again, the sound so close it made Sarah's skin crawl. A chill swept through her, leaving her cold to the bone. Lily clung to her tightly, little fingers digging into Sarah's arm, her eyes wide and glistening like dark pools of fear. "Mommy, I can't take it, I don't want to." Lily whined softly, begging for relief that felt unreachable. "Just a little longer," Sarah whispered, her own voice shaky. Each second felt like an eternity, dragging out as they held their breath. Outside, the laughter echoed once more, cruel and twisted, penetrating the fragile barrier between their nightmare and reality. Footsteps approached, deliberate and slow. The distinct crunch of gravel under heavy boots sent a fresh wave of electricity through Sarah's veins. It wasn't just Mr. Thompson's voice anymore, something else lurked in the shadows. Something with purpose. "What do we do? What do we do?" Lily's panic rose like a crescendo, setting Sarah on edge. She pressed a finger to her lips, her mind racing. Hide, but where? They were trapped in a fragile sanctuary, a closet of despair that would do little against whatever haunted them. Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated through the house. The front door burst open, splintering against the wall, and Sarah's heart plummeted. "They're here." The voice jolted through the darkness, a chorus of whispers, sounding almost inhuman. "Sarah." Mr. Thompson's voice cut through with a honeyed malice. "You can't hide from me, my dear." The closet door shook, rattling on its hinges from a heavy knock. Sarah pulled Lily closer, heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. "Mommy, stay quiet." Sarah snapped, her breath harsh against the crushing dark. Adrenaline pumped through her body as she tried to think. There had to be an escape. Why hide? "It's a game, my sweet. Come out and play." Mr. Thompson's voice slithered through the gloom, riding the palpable tension that hung in the air. The walls trembled as something outside scratched at every corner, seeking them out. Sarah could feel the breath of panic drawing closer, wrapping around her like a vice. "Mommy," Lily whimpered, her small body trembling. The innocence in her voice sent pangs of guilt and anger coursing through Sarah. "I won't let him get you," Sarah reassured, though she could feel the uncertainty gnawing at her. "There has to be a way, there has to be." Suddenly, the scratching stopped. Silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating, stretching each moment as time itself stood still. Sarah held her breath, praying not to break it. Breathing felt like an act of betrayal against the oppressive dark that surrounded them. Then she heard it, a low, guttural growl that made her blood freeze. It was too close. Something else was out there, lurking alongside Mr. Thompson, waiting. "Despair is so sweet, isn't it?" he crooned, the words reverberating like it was coming from all around them. "I see it in your eyes, Sarah. What do you want?" she shouted, nearly manically, her voice cutting through the pregnant silence. "Oh, you know what I want. Just a small piece of you and your darling girl, and we can all be together forever." A sharp hiss echoed, and something brushed against the door, cold, bony fingers cracking wood. Sarah's skin crawled, realization hitting her like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just one predator, many lived within the shadows he controlled. "Mommy, please." Lily's voice was a desperate plea, and it ignited something primal in Sarah. "Hang on, sweetie, just hold tight." Gathering every ounce of courage, Sarah pressed her back against the closet door, the wood feeling like a fragile barrier holding the chaos at bay. Her heart raced, threatening to spill from her chest as she contemplated a daring escape. There was only one choice left. They couldn't stay hidden forever. Another jarring shake rattled the closet, the door threatening to burst open. She glanced at Lily, her daughter's wide eyes held a mixture of fear and trust. "We're going to have to run now," Sarah hissed, readying herself for the uncertainty waiting just beyond the door. Would they break free, or would the shadows consume them both? The branded laughter echoed in her mind as Sarah yanked the door open, adrenaline surging through her veins like fire. What awaited them on the other side? A path to salvation or further into the abyss? The door creaked open, and as light spilled into the cramped closet, a rush of cold air followed. The laughter outside twisted into a sinister melody, taunting them. Flat against the wall, Sarah froze. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily's whispered words echoed her own fear. "Stay behind me," Sarah instructed, her voice steady despite the panic churning inside her chest. She peered into the dim hallway. Shadows danced along the walls, shifting as though alive. She opened the door wider, stepping into a nightmare painted in shades of gray. With apprehensive steps, they crept into the living room. The front door hung ajar, splintered wood offering a glimpse of the chaos outside. The darkness seemed to inhale, filling the empty space with a suffocating presence. Heavy footsteps thudded somewhere close by, setting Sarah's nerves alight. "Should we go out?" Lily's voice trembled, a fragile hope clinging to each word. "Not yet, we need to be careful," Sarah replied. Each breath felt like a weight, heavy and labored. The curtains flickered, tossing unfriendly shadows. "Let us check the back door," she whispered, willing the fear to stay at bay. They moved cautiously, hearts racing against the unsettling sound of silence that had swallowed the house whole. As they neared the kitchen, a sound cut through the air, a scraping, like nails scratching against wood. Sarah halted, bracing herself. She exchanged a glance with Lily. In those brief seconds, they were of the same mind, something was hunting them. "Do you hear that?" Lily asked, her eyes wide. "Yes," Sarah murmured, but she wouldn't let herself acknowledge the panic that gnawed within. Moving past the dining table, they turned down the hallway. The back door was at the end, leading out to safety, or so she hoped. Yet, the world outside echoed with the chilling cacophony of unchecked laughter. It was wrong, guttural, and filled with an insatiable hunger. As they approached, Sarah reached for the doorknob, feeling its coldness seep into her skin. Just as she was about to twist it, the muffled laughter grew louder, as if they were surrounded. In a frantic rush, she turned back. "Let us go upstairs," she urged, her mind racing with scenarios. The second floor might offer a place to hide, a momentary fortress away from whatever terror was brewing below. Lily followed without hesitation, each step a race against time. They scrambled up the stairs, Sarah stealing glances over her shoulder. The shadows stirred, a wave of malevolence following them. Reaching the landing, she dashed to the nearest bedroom, throwing the door open and ushering Lily inside. "Lock the door," Sarah commanded as she glanced out the window. It was too high up for an escape, yet there was no time to feel trapped. Lily fumbled with the latch, her small fingers shaking. They stood together in the dim room, hearts pounding like drums. Outside, that laughter morphed into something more unsettling, now mingled with growls that made the air vibrate. "Why won't they go away?" Lily sobbed, pressing her small body against her mother. I don't know," Sarah stammered, brain racing. The shadows pulsated, creeping closer. She felt as if the walls were closing in on them. "Do you think?" Lily glanced at the door, a question hanging on the edge of her lips. "I don't know," Sarah replied, feeling the tremor of dread. "We can't let them get us," Lily said, her little voice firm with a resolve that startled Sarah. "We can't." "Right." Sarah agreed, clutching Lily's hand tighter. They needed a plan. But would they truly be able to escape what lurked in the dark? The door rattled again, this time with a force that made the frame shudder. Sarah's heart raced. The laughter surged, louder now, bouncing off the walls, enveloping them in its twisted embrace. Listen, it wasn't just outside anymore, it echoed from every corner of the room. Sarah's breaths quickened. They weren't just being watched, they were being hunted. Something clawed at the door, a low hiss curling around the knob, and she knew with horrifying certainty that the nightmare was just beginning. What if they weren't alone in the dark? What if there was someone waiting just behind the door with plans of its own? Footsteps thudded outside that door, steady and deliberate. Sarah swallowed hard, her throat dry, aching with the weight of apprehension. Lily curled closer to her, whispering, "Mommy, what are we going to do?" Before Sarah could answer, the doorknob rattled violently, as if whatever was outside knew they were trapped and was eager to break in. The hinges screamed in protest, and Sarah's mind raced. They couldn't stay there. They had to act, and fast. "Can you be quiet, Lily? We need to listen," she whispered urgently, pulling her daughter in tightly, using herself as a shield. The sound of something scraping against the door intensified, claw-like fingers testing their resolve. Sarah's body tensed. Her heart raced, feeling its rhythm echoing in her ears. The laughter blended with the growls, creating a symphony of terror that seeped into her bones. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. "Mommy," Lily whimpered again, fear thickening the air between them. "Shoo!" Sarah hissed, holding her breath. The noises outside quieted suddenly, leaving nothing but a heavy silence that pressed down on the room, making it feel smaller, suffocating. They stood there, frozen. The world outside felt impossibly far away, overshadowed by the horrifying reality that lay only a few feet from them. What if it left? What if they were safe for a moment, but the thought slipped away as soon as it came? The stillness shattered when a hard thump echoed against the door, jolting both of them. "They're trying to get in." Lily's eyes widened, and terror filled Sarah's chest. "Mommy," she whispered urgently, "we need to find a way out. Okay, Sarah's mind raced. There had to be something. A window, anything. Heart pounding, she edged toward the window, peeking out. Rain fell heavily, drenching the ground below and pooling in the cracks of the cracked pavement. "Look!" Lily pointed. "The tree." Sarah squinted, seeing the thick branch of an oak tree reach almost to the window. If they could get outside, they might survive. She turned back to her daughter, determination igniting. "We can climb down. But we need to be very quiet and quick." "No. I don't want to." Lily protested, shaking her head vigorously. "What if they catch us?" "I promise, I'll protect you." "But we can't stay here," Sarah said fiercely. They would become prey if they didn't move. Another screech against the door. The shadows danced, wavering at the edge of her vision, sinister and electric. "Now!" Sarah urged, her voice sharp with urgency. They moved toward the window, adrenaline outweighing fear. As she pushed it open, the sound of laughter erupted anew, mocking them, screeching like a chorus of demons. With trembling hands, Sarah helped Lily climb onto the sill. Just as they were about to make their leap, a loud crash rang out. The door splintered, wood giving way under the pressure of what lay beyond. "Go!" Sarah yelled, shoving Lily out first. She felt the little body slip past her as she turned. And just then, the door burst open. A shadow loomed in the doorway, monstrous and writhing, her heart clenched in pure terror. "Lily!" She screamed, panic surging as she spotted her daughter clinging to a branch below, looking back up at her, wide-eyed and frozen. "Mommy!" Time slowed as she prepared to jump, but the creature lunged, its form shifting and twisting, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. With every ounce of strength, Sarah leaped into the night, hand reaching out toward Lily, in that instant knowing they were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting against something unimaginable. But the chilling laughter ripped through the air again, echoing in her ears like a dirge. As their hands met, a jolt of ice coursed through her, leaving her questioning everything. Who was the real hunter, her or the creature? And then, in a heartrending instant, the world fell away around them, leaving behind only darkness. What awaited them on the ground, and what had they really left behind in that house? Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as the world reformed around her. Groggily, she pushed herself upright, pain radiating through her limbs. The air was thick with a damp chill, and the distant sound of rain mingled with something heavier, a low growl that reverberated from the shadows. She blinked into darkness. Lily! Panic seized her heart. Lily! The moon skinned the outlines of twisted branches above her, their stark shadows spanning the ground like grasping fingers. It took a moment for her to gather her bearings, to quell the frantic pounding in her chest. She scanned the area, her pulse racing as she searched for her daughter, but all she saw were knotted roots and a sea of dark foliage. "Mommy!" came a distant whimper, fragile and laden with fear. "Lily!" Sarah yelled back, forcing herself to stand despite the tremors coursing through her body. She stumbled on her feet, disoriented, hearing echoes of that manic laughter from the house still coiling in her mind. "Over here." Lily's voice was closer now, seeming to carry the weight of desperation with it. Sarah hurried in the direction of the sound, every breath sharp against the thickening dread that clung to her. As she rushed forward, she felt the ground shift beneath her feet, roots and mud slick and treacherous. "Lily!" She called again, now searching with both urgency and fear. But the girl's whimpering stopped abruptly, leaving Sarah standing alone in an unwelcome silence that bore down like an anvil. "Mommy!" This time, Lily didn't call out to her. Instead, it was the creature mimicking her voice, low and sickeningly sweet, sending chills dancing up Sarah's spine. "Stay away!" Sarah shouted, swinging her arms wildly to disperse the darkness, as if she could physically illuminate the night. She forced herself to breathe, trying to calm the claustrophobic panic threatening to take root. The laughter returned, bright and surreal among the trees, morphing into the haunting sound of children playing. It seemed to drift from all directions, taunting, curling around her like smoke. Were they all still in the house? A sickening thought lurked in her mind, the possibility that this nightmarish entity was more than just an individual monstrosity. "Come on, Sarah, think." She urged herself as she stumbled toward where she thought her daughter might be. She had to find her, had to protect her. Then she tripped, crashing onto the ground. Pain shot through her knee as she landed, and she barely managed to keep herself from crying out. The laughter faded momentarily, as though recognizing the opening. "Mommy!" Relief washed over Sarah. She scrambled to her feet, glancing around, and caught a glimpse of white against the dark, a small figure, crouched between roots and leaves. "Lily!" She raced forward, desperation cloaking her movements. "Don't!" Lily shrieked suddenly, her eyes wide, but it was too late. The ground beneath Sarah's feet echoed with disturbing reverberations, an unnatural rumble that silenced all else. The shadows elongated, forming grotesque shapes that coiled around her. She could feel a presence swirling behind her, suffocating. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the laughter erupted again, now shrill and dripping with malice. The trees seemed to hone in on her, their branches swaying impossibly close, scraping against each other as if whispering secrets meant to ensnare her sanity. "Run! We need to go!" Sarah shouted, grabbing Lily's arm, pulling her toward the faintest sliver of light that flickered through the maze of trees. But the shadows shifted, warping their escape. Too late, she realized the path had changed, morphing under the influence of something otherworldly. What have we awakened? She wondered, fear slashing through her like a knife. As they pushed forward, desperate steps against the laughing wind, the creature's presence loomed ever closer, tightening its grip. In the back of her mind, a frigid thought took root: what if they weren't meant to escape? What if this was just the beginning? The thought echoed in the silence, waiting for an answer, but none came. "Mommy, where are we going?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "Just hold on tight." But as the shadows shifted one last time, Sarah couldn't shake the chilling sensation that the hunt was far from over. What had they stirred, and just how much time did they have left? The trees loomed larger as they pushed forward, bending inward as if trying to seal the world outside away from them. The sliver of light danced ahead like a beacon, but it felt more like a trap than salvation. Sarah dragged Lily alongside her, the wet ground swallowing their hurried steps, threatening to pull them into the abyss. "Mommy, I don't like it here." Lily's voice quivered, vibrating with genuine fear. Every nerve in Sarah's body screamed for her to flee faster, but the oppressive atmosphere dragged against her resolve. The laughter had transformed into a cacophony, twisting around them with a chilling intimacy. "Stay close, sweetie. We're going to be okay." But her voice faltered, uncertainty seeping into every word. She could sense something lurking in the dark, stalking them, waiting. As they raced toward the light, a twig snapped behind them. Sarah whirled around, heart in her throat. The darkness bloomed, and the laughter morphed into howls echoing through the trees, a sound that scraped the edges of sanity. There was something else mixed in with those sounds, a low rumble that simmered just below the surface. "Keep going," she urged, adrenaline coursing through her as she pulled Lily ahead. Then she saw it, a shape weaving between the trees, lit intermittently by the flickers of moonlight. A figure, tall and twisted, its limbs too long, moving with an impossible grace. Shadows hugged it, churning around its edges, and it was looking right at them. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, instinctively burying her face in Sarah's side, her little body trembling. But Sarah was frozen, grappling with disbelief and terror. It wore a face woven of the night itself, contorted yet eerily familiar. "Run!" Sarah finally shouted, bursting into motion. The light felt so close, and yet every step felt like a careless dream, the ground slippery with dread. Their path wove tighter, closer, as if the woods were entwining them, redirecting their escape, but when they reached the light, it flickered out like a flame snuffed by a gust of wind. Sarah gasped, the bright sanctuary evaporating, plunging them into swirling night once more. The laughter crescendoed, rising to a fever pitch, the trees seeming to warp and sway with the rhythm of it. "Where are we?" Lily whimpered. We're still here," Sarah stammered, scanning their surroundings. The shadows pulsed, darkness crawling against her skin. Panic enveloped her. This wasn't right. They were supposed to find safety, but fear seeped into the air like poison, and then, as if the night had come alive, the trees began to whisper. Softly at first, words slithering through the air like smoke. Join us, they beckoned, voices intertwining with the haunting laughter, creating an unspeakable melody that strained Sarah's mind. "Stop. Just stop." She screamed, but the shadows didn't relent, wrapping tighter around her and Lily. Just when she thought they would be consumed, a familiar voice broke the chaos. "Mommy?" Sarah's heart stopped. It wasn't just the creature imitating Lily anymore. It was her daughter, as if echoing from somewhere within the shadows. "I'm right here," Sarah cried, feeling lost. Which Lily was she to trust? Panic surged through her veins, unraveling her resolve. With determination, Sarah squeezed Lily's hand. "We need to keep moving. We're going to find a way out." As they pushed through the darkness, the creature lashed out, snapping branches like brittle sticks, its growl low and guttural. A wave of terror coursed through Sarah, a visceral understanding that time was slipping away. "Mommy! It's behind us!" Lily screamed, but Sarah felt that they were already too late. She turned her head back to face the shadows, a steely resolve taking hold. "Whatever you are, we're not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice breaking through the laughter like a hammer against glass, but in the wake of her defiance, a cold whisper wound around her. "Stay, let us play." The weight of fear bore down as they plunged deeper into the dark. How did one fight against shadows that knew their every fear? As the darkness thickened, Sarah's breath came quick and sharp. They could hear the shifting behind them, feel the hot breath curling around their necks as the clamor of laughter morphed into urgent whispers, gnawing on her sanity. "Mommy, what if we don't get out?" Lily's trembling voice pierced the thick air, fear echoing in her words. Sarah clung to her, heart racing. They were being hunted. But as they stumbled forward, every step more desperate than the last, Sarah felt a truth turning in her gut. What if escaping the woods was not what fate had in store? What awaited them in the heart of the night? Dark things turned when the light glimmered, shadows waiting for souls to join their endless game. The darkness around them was a living thing, swirling with malevolence, wrapping Sarah and Lily in its suffocating embrace. Each breath felt like a battle, as the whispers swirled around them, beckoning, promising safety, but only in exchange for something sacred. "Hold on, baby," Sarah whispered fiercely, yanking her daughter closer, anchoring herself in the storm of shadows. They had to keep pushing forward, there had to be a way out of this nightmare. But where? Every direction seemed equally dangerous, the oppressive weight of the night pressing down on their thoughts. As they moved deeper into the trees, the laughter twisted into a macabre symphony that echoed through the branches. "Closer, closer, we want you, join us." The seductive whispers trailed behind them, beckoning, clawing at the edges of their minds. What were they fighting? Objects of fear, or the darkness within themselves? "Not now!" Sarah screamed back, defiance surging through her like fire. The air thickened with their cries, but she would not let this force break her. "We are not yours." Then, an eerie shift, the shadows broke apart ahead, and for the first time, she glimpsed a glimmer of light, dancing like a candle's flame through the tangled branches. "Look, Lily. We need to reach that." Sarah pulled her daughter forward, urgency in every step. But the shadows shuddered around them, clinging tighter, pulling at their legs like drowning souls. "Mommy, I can't." Lily whimpered, her little frame weakening under the oppressive force of the darkness. Sarah felt her heart crack, hearing the fear laced in her daughter's voice. "We will make it." She squeezed Lily's hand, trying to bolster them both. "We just need to believe we can fight it." And then, they surged toward the light, heartbeats pounding against time as the malevolent whispers filled the air, rising into a crescendo of chaos. Each step became a battlefield, the shadows dragging at their ankles. "Come back. Come play." Dashed through the chilling air. Cold fingers flitted against Sarah's back, sending icy knives of terror down her spine. But she couldn't look back. Focus. Stay focused. "Lily, on my count. We go together." Sarah maneuvered through the shifting shadows, catching glimpses of writhing shapes behind her. 1, 2, 3. They charged forward, desperate and frantic. The light flickered above them, pushing against the inner darkness, and with one final heave, they tumbled into its warm embrace. Suddenly, they were out. The forest melted away, replaced by the familiar glow of their backyard, the moon shining lovingly upon them. Sarah gasped as the clammy embrace of the night released its hold, evaporating into nothing. She turned to Lily, still trembling but safe. Tears streamed down her cheeks, verdant in the silver light. "Mommy," Lily whispered, and at that moment, Sarah pulled her close, the warmth of her embrace driving away the creeping shadows of fear. "It's okay, it's over," she said, though the tremor still lingered in her voice. Yet even in the moonlit safety of her yard, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were not entirely free. Behind them, shadows flickered, the memory of Mr. Thompson's sinister smile and its echoing laughter rattling in her mind. "It's not over," she murmured, glancing back toward the woods, where the darkness still swirled, cruel and patient. "Mommy, we should go inside," Lily pleaded, tugging at her arm. "Yes," Sarah replied, turning toward the house, resolve hardening her heart. "We need to get away from here." As they moved towards the door, Sarah couldn't help feeling that this was not just a place they had escaped what lurked in the shadows, but the lessons learned would follow them. Horrors waited in corners of light, answers would come at a cost. Once inside, Sarah locked the door behind them, pressing her back against it, taking a minute to cherish the warmth and safety of her home. With Lily safe in her arms, she cradled her daughter, feeling the warmth coursing back into them both. "Everything is going to be all right," she soothed, but she knew better. They could finally rest, shrouded in the comfort of home, yet echoes of laughter might still find them. Just the echo of those words, just the haunting memory of the darkness they may have escaped for now, but they would always remember that nightmares existed, that true terror was more than just a whispered shadow. As Sarah flipped on the lights, illuminating their cocoon of safety, she held Lily closer, knowing that each dawn was a hopeful reminder of her daughter, a light against the abyss that would always be waiting. "Together," she whispered, and as Lily nodded against her shoulder, they forged a bond born of the night in their hearts, a flame that would never be snuffed out as long as love and courage remained entwined with hope. As they settled into the evening's quiet, Sarah took a deep breath. Home was supposed to be their sanctuary, but it could also be a battleground, and she would fight fiercely to protect what mattered most, and she would never forget that truth. Be vigilant, even in peace, for the shadows never really leave. If you've made it this far, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us keep bringing these chilling tales to life. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world to us, and only true fans understand the importance of acting now.